Every season of Survivor is a story. There are main characters, sidekicks, comic reliefs, and villains. A good season of Survivor tells a compelling story that has you rooting for someone and against someone else. You will want to watch episode after episode to see what happens next until it all finishes with a hopefully satisfying conclusion. Each story that we look at together will go through one character's journey from beginning to end, from the time that they are introduced until they inevitably get their torch snuffed or win the game. We will be looking at every character moment and strategic move to determine whether they were a hero or a villain, and whether they were a good or bad strategist. And with that, welcome to Once Upon an Island. For reference, we are only going to be observing what the TV show is showing us and what story is being told through the show. No future seasons will be mentioned, as the story and characters here have no idea about what happens in those future seasons. All character moments and strategic moves are interpreted with the mindset of what the story is trying to tell us. And before we start, I want to thank you for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. For only a few bucks a month on Patreon, you can pick what videos I make, watch all of this channel's content early, chat with other fans of the show, and even get exclusive videos every month. The patrons picked this story to be made. So with that, let's jump into another epic story.
39 days, 16 people, 1 survivor.
Aras, a 24-year-old yoga instructor from Santa Monica, California, was a castaway and the winner of Survivor's 12th season, Survivor Exile Island. By the time he finished playing, people were underwhelmed. Aras was a low-key, level-headed guy on a tribe full of big personalities who all face off against one of, if not the, greatest challenge beast this show has ever seen. So how did Aras get to the end and win when his game was not as bombastic as everyone else's? Let's find out. Survivor Exile Island begins with everyone separated into 4 tribes, a real first for Survivor, but the kicker is how the tribes are split by age and sex. It is 16 players spread across 4 tribes, so the younger men are on a separate tribe from the older men, and the younger women are on a separate tribe from the older women. Aras, being a 24-year-old man, is on the younger men's tribe with Austin, Nick, and Bobby. Right away, Jeff says, "Welcome to this season's twist, Exile Island." It was a 1-episode twist in season 10 Palau, but now this thing is fully fleshed out. 1 and sometimes 2 people will be stranded here at a time. We are currently standing on it, and somewhere here is this season's idol, which can be used through the final 4 and can be played after the votes are read. Basically a super immunity idol. They then have an opening challenge to see which 3 tribes will get a flint and machete and who will have to leave one of their own on Exile Island. The younger men end up being one of the tribes to win. So we then see them at their camp where they probably should be building a fire and shelter, but instead they are playing baseball. We then see Aras say, "Let's get our hands real close together," but without touching each other, that would be weird. Then we can imagine building a fire. Nick says, "This dude has some harebrained ideas."
Aras he's got a lot of ideas. Some of them are kind of harebrained out of left field, like doing meditation. You get fire.
Use that power in the hands, you got it. Brace yourself. Think about this thing catching it.
We then don't see them working on the fire, but we do see them working on a very sorry looking shelter. Then at the immunity challenge, it is a tight race between them and the older women to get the last immunity, and
Younger men win immunity. Older women go into tribal council.
And that is it for the premiere episode of Survivor Exile Island. With 4 tribes, we haven't met too many people so far, but what we do know of Aras is that we see Courtney of the younger women wink at him. Take that for what it is worth. He is part of the slacker tribe who can't really build a shelter and would rather play baseball, and he is seen as sort of a nut for being very into yoga. What does this mean for a story moving forward? I have no idea, but let's find out. Episode 2 sees the consequences of playing baseball instead of building a good shelter, as it rains that night in Panama and the younger men are getting soaked all night long. But thankfully they might be catching a break, as there is already going to be a tribe swap with Danielle and Terry as the captains of the new tribes. Aras gets selected for the Kanegai tribe by Courtney, and maybe that's why we saw her wink at him earlier. He then gets to choose, so he picks Cirie, and by the time the tribes are drafted, it is clear that Kanegai is the physically weaker of the 2. Since Bruce does not get picked, he goes to Exile Island, where he will stay until a tribe votes someone out and he replaces them. But how do we know Kanegai Kasai is the physically weaker of the two tribes. Well, right away they do a reward challenge that is very physical, and they lose. So back at camp, Shane says, hey, me, Danielle, Courtney, and Aras can be the final four and guarantee we make it to the merge by voting off Melinda, Bobby, and Cirie if we need to from this tribe.
3 of us and Aras.
Totally.
The 4 of us.
I swear to you on my son's life.
It's us 4.
A great deal, and it wasn't even Aras's idea, but right away it seems like maybe aligning with Shane wasn't the best idea, since he says,
Deal, if you get any of these, I'll find you and kill you. I'm serious.
Wow. Anyways, Kasai goes on to lose immunity. What a shocker. And back at camp, Shane says, I want to quit. I am hurting. And Aras shows where his brain automatically goes to when he hears this, because we see Danielle and Courtney go, no, you can't go. It'll ruin our games. But Aras just asks, where is Shane hurting? And it comes across like he cares.
I'm not feeling so good right now.
Emotionally, physically.
I just, I don't want to be here.
Shane has been breaking down since day one, since he is a chain smoker without cigarettes, and he misses his son really badly. But Aras remains level-headed and talks Shane through his feelings and basically convinces him that staying would be best. However, while getting Shane's head right, Aras openly says we are voting for Cirie or Melinda to go home, which is obvious. They even knew this was going to happen. But this upsets Courtney, and it makes Cirie and Melinda cry. Then, at Tribal Council, Melinda is voted out 5-2, with Bruce replacing her on the Kasai tribe.
Melinda, tribe has spoken.
Episode 3 begins with a reward challenge where Aras, Danielle, and Bobby hype up Bruce as being a game changer for their tribe due to his survival knowledge. However, they go on to lose reward, and so the Lamina tribe gets to send anyone they want to Exile, and they send Bruce. Back at camp, Shane is being nuts again as he claims a spot in the camp as his thinking seat, and Courtney asks why can't anyone else use it, and he calmly says back to her,
This is my Shane's thinking seat. It's mine for the rest of the... Please, actually, could no one else sit on my thinking seat? Please.
Why does it have to be yours?
Because I picked it. You want this one? I'll go get another one! I want one! This one! If you want this one, I'll go get another one! I just want mine! This one!
I'm in an alliance with 3 nutballs, I feel like, at this point.
Cirie says this alliance is nuts, there's no way they hold it together. Then at the immunity challenge, it becomes do or die as the tribes fight for bags buried in the sand, and Kasai is down by 1 point, and if Lamina scores, they win. So in this clutch moment,
Bring me the bag! I told you to bring me the bag!
Kasai does go on to win as well, finally breaking their losing streak. And in episode 4, Aras is annoyed because him, Shane, and Bruce seem to be doing all the work around the camp while Courtney, Danielle, and Bobby are just slacking off. So we see Aras basically take the role of a leader and talks to them about camp responsibilities and how everyone needs to be doing their fair share of work, which Courtney takes offense to. And Aras says, I wish I could get out of this alliance.
We can't be out catching food for a whole day and then the onus of fire is on us.
Honestly, that kills me to hear that because I'm constantly working.
Shane, Courtney, and Danielle, I gave those people my word in the alliance. But if I had my druthers, I wouldn't want to be in an alliance with Courtney. I would almost lose it on purpose to get Courtney voted off because she just gets on my nerves.
Kasai goes on to win reward, and with that comes a new outhouse courtesy of Charmin. All nice and newly sponsored. Aras says this will be a great place for wood since it will keep it dry in this wet Panama climate. However, Bobby wants to drop a deuce in there first, which Danielle just hates. She says she wishes he was more of a gentleman. With Kasai winning reward, they get to send a Lamina member to Exile Island, and they chose Terry, who goes there and makes a monumental discovery.
The hidden immunity idol. It's in there. Oh, totally. Break the bottle and retrieve the hidden talisman. The talisman is beautiful. This makes the whole trip out here worthwhile. I mean, they ended up doing me a big favor. That immunity idol in my back pocket is definitely my ace in the hole.
While Aras obviously has no knowledge of this discovery now, it will be important later. We then see the issue of slacking come up again as Aras sees Cirie working hard, but again, Danielle and Bobby are doing nothing. Shane gets onto her and Danielle blows up on them.
I get wood, I get the water, I help you guys get snails. What are you talking about?
Shane, sometimes he has a bad attitude. I mean, I was a captain in sports and you don't get like that, like demeaning you know. Why do you want to help them?
The infighting of the Alliance is bad, but thankfully their tribe wins immunity, so they don't have to concern themselves with these issues for now. Episode 5 sees Bruce and Aras get into a spat, which is not great, as Aras gets onto Bruce about working hard. This does seem to be something Aras values a lot and calls out everyone who slacks, but this time Bruce feels offended because he does work hard, and just because he took some time to work on a rock garden doesn't mean Aras has to disrespect him.
It's dire straits right now with fire.
Go get firewood.
Bruce, I've gotten firewood. You gotta understand, this is a really tough fire right now, okay? You made your rock garden, no one went complaining. I'm working on this. I'm working as a team, okay? When we're in this situation, there's gotta be priorities.
You attack my character. When you
How
do
did I
that,
attack your character?
when you just say that was nothing over there, you don't have no idea why I'm building
When
that
I
rock
said that was
garden.
nothing?
The rock garden.
I didn't say anything was nothing.
You come back with a childish, that was childish to come back with that.
So hold on. You're calling me childish?
No, the remark was. I said the childish remark.
I see where you're coming from. Just try to see where I'm coming from. I wasn't trying to disrespect you.
I know you're the master of the fire.
No, hold on. Hey,
that's what
it's all about communication, Bruce. We're in a tough situation.
But don't come back. It's
So Bruce, if you could get some of that good wood,
okay,
that's what we need, right?
Give me my machete.
I definitely shouldn't have yelled at Bruce, and I felt bad about that. It was just a matter of whether or not the tribe needed a rock garden or a fire.
Kasaya is on a roll in challenges as they win reward, which is a whole bunch of raw fish, but back at camp it is flooded, so they can't make a fire, and that fish is staying raw like sushi. Aras says despite the suck of this bad weather, he loves that they are bonding through this adversity.
This is a tough situation. It's 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, but I'm happy that we won. We're bonding in our weird Kasaya strange fish way.
But for the first time since episode 2, Kasaya loses immunity, and back at camp, Shane says we vote out Bobby tonight. But Aras says no way, let's get out Bruce instead. Clearly these two guys just want to keep whoever was on their original starting tribe with, because that's who they trust more, to not flip on them at the merge. Aras says no way Bobby is flipping, but actually earlier in this episode, Bobby said come a merge, he is 100% flipping. Then at tribal council, Aras is on the attack as he says Bruce drinking their last bottle of wine that they got on the reward really sucks, completely pushing aside how Bobby also did the same thing, and Danielle defends Bruce, which is sure to curry favor with him in the future.
I just think he just feels like he's not getting the respect that he deserves. He's an older man, he's a wiser man, he has more experience than everybody, and I just think sometimes he doesn't get the respect that he deserves.
Then, in a 3-2 to 1 vote, Aras is out of the loop as Bobby is voted out of the tribe.
Bobby, tribe has spoken. It's time for you to go.
Episode 6 starts, and here is a long fight between Shane and Danielle in the shelter while Bruce is right there. Aras says, I am completely over this.
We made the wrong decision tonight, Danielle. And we made that decision because of your personal feelings, period. I know Bruce is in here. I'm not worried about it. Listen, what do I got to worry about? Anybody, homie? I want to get out of the Alliance and I'm in with you guys, but I can't do that unless you guys allow me to take my son's name back. So I didn't vote.
Why would you say that?
Because I don't trust that you guys are going to make the right decisions. I'd rather go into the merge a lone wolf than have to deal with you and Courtney.
I don't need to deal with it. I don't want to deal with it. I'm going to bed. Still feel like that tomorrow, then bring it up tomorrow, and we'll argue tomorrow. Okay?
I know, you're such a victim, Danielle.
I know.
I need to get out of this alliance because I'm in it with an idiot, and I don't want to be with Shane. I just don't. I don't trust that he's going to keep his mouth shut. I don't respect the way he treats other people, and I don't want to be a part of that. If I have a choice, I don't want to be a part of it.
Shane backs out of their alliance and everyone says, good, please go away. But then Kasaya wins reward and immunity, and with that comes a trip to a local village where Aras finally gets to have some fun.
It was so cool. A young boy grabbed my hand and asked me if I wanted to eat, and I was like, yes, I want to eat.
We also see Shane and Danielle make up now that some booze is in both of them, and we move past episode 7, which is a recap episode that holds no bearing on the story at hand, and in episode 8, it is time. Lamina arrives at their camp via the boat, and Aras says, holy cow, let's eat this rice that we're eating right now as fast as possible so we don't have to share any of it. But then Kasaya gets their act together and says, hey, we've got this, we're up 6-4, so let's be the final 6.
They have less than us. We have more. We stay together. We get to the top 6. 1, 2, 3.
We're gonna welcome them in with open arms. Welcome to our house, but we're gonna vote you off one by one by one by one.
Episode 8 sees them getting a merge feast, and Aras says, "Oh, don't I feel stupid for chowing down that rice now when I could be having this much better food if I wasn't feeling kind of full." But soon after, talks arise with Lamina, seeing if someone from Kasaya will flip and even up the numbers 5-5. With Bruce being the most likely candidate to do that, Aras pumps up Bruce with some lies to make sure he doesn't flip.
Aras and my strategy with Bruce is to make him feel like our leader so that he won't go away.
Hey, you run this show, okay? So you let him know. You just let him know that's your tribe.
Then Austin tries his best to recruit Aras, since Lamina's trying to recruit any person that they can, but Aras does an excellent job of giving him non-answers to everything Austin asks. We then see the immunity challenge where Terry wins, making him not an option for elimination, besides the fact that he also has the super idol, but no one else knows that yet. But then Kasaya holds a public meeting about who they want to vote out of Lamina, and this upsets Lamina a lot.
We just wanted to get together, the 6 of us, figure out exactly what we're doing, communicate, and to be honest, I don't care what they think. You know what I mean? If they have a problem with it, okay. I mean, they can have as big a problem as they want. They're still going one at a time.
At Tribal Council, Jeff right away observes that this alliance is a cocky one, which goes hand in hand with what Lamina just said back at camp, and Aras says this may be true, but he isn't worried about this group. Then, in a 6-4 vote, Nick is eliminated.
Nick, the tribe has spoken.
Episode 9 begins and Aras says Austin of the Lamina tribe sucks, and this seems like a big overreaction on Aras's part, because he is talking about how at the last Tribal Council, Austin said he could have performed better at the challenge, but he didn't.
These snails are like members of Lamina, slimy and hard to get out.
Oh, Aras, aren't you being cutthroat?
No, they're cutthroat. And Austin is a slimer.
He's a slimer.
A slimer.
It is hard to see someone in a position of power pick on an obvious underdog, but Aras does go on to win the reward challenge with Bruce and Sally, and the next morning he says he feels like a kid on Christmas morning waiting for his present. It ends up being not as great as planned, since it endlessly rains in Panama, and the reward is having breakfast in bed, and the bed is not protected, it's wet. Who wants that? Terry goes on to win his second individual immunity, and back at camp, Aras says, let's just vote out Sally because I am 99% sure Terry has the idol, or maybe he's gifted it to Austin. Sally is the safest vote. A smart move, since no one has conceived the idea of splitting votes and no one will for another season. However, Courtney disagrees with Aras's plan and they fight.
What?
Yes.
No way.
Do you think Terry wants to give his idol to Austin? It's an individual game right now. He needs that in his back pocket. Even if he does have it, which he doesn't, he's not about to give it away.
Could you treat me with just a little bit of respect right now? How am I not respected?
Wait.
I haven't disrespected you with one word, and you're calling me stupid. Your name isn't going to be written down, so you don't have to worry about it. Actually, I have to worry about it.
For the first time ever, Aras really, freaked me out.
At Tribal Council, Terry votes for Aras and says he is the biggest threat left in the game. And then, in a 6-3 vote, Austin is eliminated and he doesn't play the idol.
Austin, the tribe has spoken. Time for you to go.
Episode 10 starts with Terry asking where he fits into everyone's final 6 plans, and Aras and Shane plainly say, dude, we have no plans on taking you anywhere. Why would we do that? Which has Terry realizing, yeah, the only way I am reaching the end is on immunity wins. Aras says, I need to go to Exile to be 100% certain Terry has it because it is likely no one has found it yet. So when he loses reward, he gets sent there, and after looking for a while, he realizes, yeah, I was wrong. There's no idol here, or it is just truly impossible to find. Terry goes on to win immunity number 3, so the only target left is Sally. Now at that immunity challenge, everyone had the option to compete or to eat, and Aras was the only former Kasaya member to compete. So at Tribal Council, Jeff says this alliance is incredibly cocky. But then, in a 6-2 vote, Sally is gone.
Sally, the tribe has spoken.
Episode 11 has a reward challenge which is purely social and is guaranteed to hurt someone's feelings, as questions are asked like, who is the biggest poser and who is the most annoying person to live with? It comes down to Aras and Cirie at the end of the game, and wisely Aras throws the challenge so he doesn't have to pick anyone and hurt other people's feelings.
Who would never survive on their own? Aras says Terry. Cirie says herself. Correct answer is Cirie.
Did you do that on purpose, Aras?
Me?
I don't think you could survive a day in the wilderness.
Cirie wins and she takes Aras and Danielle on the reward challenge, claiming that they would be the most fun to hang out with. But in the process, she hurts Shane's feelings, which is what Aras was likely concerned with if he had won the challenge.
We talked about this. We'd already talked about this.
We did, Shane, but it was after Danielle.
Danielle's your choice?
I'm sorry, yeah. Sorry, Shane. I'm sorry.
Then while on the reward, Danielle assesses that Courtney has a crush on Shane, and that is why they fight all the time, because if you have watched the season or if you watch Shane's video, you see how Courtney and him just fight non-stop. But Aras actually takes Danielle's analysis one step further.
Courtney, her and Shane, man, they're so similar.
They are.
She has a serious crush on him, I think.
Oh, total crush on him. And the thing is with Courtney is she just wants to be wanted. Like that's her psychological pattern. And so she loves it when Shane engages her in those arguments about her being passive aggressive, even though she'll like walk away and be angry. She knows that there's gonna be a makeup point.
I'll kill you, Mike, when I get back to Hollywood.
No, great.
I will. I'll drive up and I'll kill you in your little apartment, and I'll drive over to my club, and that'll be it.
That was really nice. I don't have a apartment.
Well, obviously, dude. I've never been in your apartment. I don't know if it's or not. It was an adjective.
I know.
Don't take everything so personal.
She's a lunatic, man. She is a dream to take to the final two.
They then come back to camp and surprise, surprise, Bruce has been medically evacuated because he's unable to poop and he needed to go to a hospital. Holy crap. Shane is then raging mad because he thinks Cirie screwed up and Danielle deserves nothing. However, therapist Aras steps in and calms Shane down.
Not going out before Danielle did. That bitch did nothing for 30 days and gets to go yesterday. She's done nothing but be lazy and waiting and fed. And if Cirie takes her, that is not right. I have to put Cirie on my back, all 300 pounds of her.
Didn't you play sports? Didn't you have teams? Like, you lose some, you win some. Get over it.
Episode 12 begins with Shane going nuts. What else is new? But in this case, he is imagining that a rock that he found is his cell phone.
I was going to the rocks today, and I saw this thing just like that, and it was just, I was like, wow, BlackBerry reminded me of my BlackBerry. It's got texting, email, phone, web browser. When I think about something I want to tell my partner, I shoot him off, or I talk about my son, because my son can text on his cell phone, and it's actually helped my day. I'm communicating with people, not on this island.
Aras goes on to lose the reward challenge and as a result is sent to Exile Island. This results in him spending a lot of time doing yoga because everyone basically knows Terry has the idol now. Terry goes on to win immunity number 4 and Cirie says, "Hey Aras, I am suspecting that everyone wants to drag Courtney to the end to be an easy person to beat, aka she's a goat. We should vote her out so she doesn't get in our way of getting to the end ourselves." Aras says, "Yeah, that's a good plan."
Cirie was quick to fill me in on the situation. She really has my back, which is nice. And she let me know about the goings on, and basically what's going on now is we're gonna vote for Courtney.
At Tribal Council, Terry votes for Aras again, saying he is a good rival, but is still his biggest threat, and Courtney is eliminated 3-2 to 1.
Courtney, the tribe has spoken. It's time for you to go.
Episode 13 begins with Terry winning the Loved Ones Challenge, so he gets to designate who gets what. He says, of course, himself and Shane get to spend a night with their loved ones, Cirie gets to have her husband come back to the camp, Danielle gets sent to Exile Island, and Aras gets a hug.
Yeah, when I get home, will you please on the table have like 5 dinners?
Everything. I'll just make everything you want. Oh my God.
After the loved ones leave, Terry explains why he made the choices he did, and Aras gets upset saying that, "Hey, my mom is equal to you seeing your wife." Terry says that's crazy. A spouse and someone's kids mean way more than seeing your mom while you're still in your early 20s. Terry is right, and Aras takes this way too far.
Everybody out here wanted to see their family members. Just as bad as you wanted to see Trish, I wanted to spend the night with my mom. And to like think, well, it's just a mom, that rubs me the wrong way when you say that.
When you get married, in my viewpoint, there's no choice. If I had a choice to see my wife or I had a choice to see my mother, I'm seeing my wife. I like the fact that Aras came unglued. It showed a part of him that I hadn't seen. and maybe a little crack that I can take advantage of.
Terry then goes on to win his 5th immunity challenge in a row, and that combined with his immunity idol guarantees himself a spot in the final 3. Aras says it is time to turn on Shane since he learned that Shane planned on taking Courtney to final 2 and not Aras. But then at Tribal Council, Jeff says what Terry has done is very impressive, you have to admit. And Aras says yeah, winning challenges is impressive, but he then makes a very smart observation about the game of Survivor that anyone who wants to win needs to understand.
Well, Jeff, this is the way that I look at it, is the challenges, just one part of the game. You can win all the challenges you want. If you don't win people over, you don't win the $1 million.
It is time to vote, and in a 3-1 split, Shane is gone, and he's very upset about this.
Oh my God, I'm gonna have a chocolate ice cream bar in about 1 minute.
Shane, the tribe has spoken.
Episode 14 starts with Cirie and Terry fighting. Long story short, Cirie thoughtlessly dropped her torch where Terry was walking, and he overreacts, and they both get into a fight. They're both in the wrong, but wisely Aras steps in to defend Cirie, which only helps further solidify their relationship. It is now time for the reward challenge, and it has become a battle between Aras and Terry as Aras does his best to slow Terry down, and later on in the challenge, Terry gets confused about the rules, which leads to Aras taunting him, saying,
Don't you have to come back after each look once you're out there? Aras should have been back here already. He's taking multiple looks.
No, Terry, you're good.
I can take multiple looks?
Yes.
Oh, you didn't tell us that. With one looking back to the station. Somebody call a ambulance. Terry's crying on the course.
This has to be the most iconic line Aras will ever say on Survivor, since he is usually a normal guy and not some crazy character like Shane. However, Aras and Terry bicker after it is done, and Aras is 100% in the wrong.
Every time you don't win something, you complain about it. Every time.
Right back at you.
You have no respect for anybody else out here.
Keep it up.
What are you gonna do? Say something bad about women? Do I have to worry about that?
Oh, yeah, there you go. That always works. That's a real mature comeback.
While on the reward challenge, Aras and Cirie make some light fun of Terry, not mean-spirited like before, but Aras does realize he has been quite immature. Cirie says she trusts Aras and he's by far her closest ally in the game, which is great to hear, but then at the immunity challenge, it is neck and neck between Terry and Aras, and as it turns out...
Got it. Aras wins immunity!
Aras is safe from the vote tonight.
For the first time all season, someone other than Terry wins individual immunity, but he still has the super idol, so he's safe. Back at camp, Terry confronts Aras about what he said earlier, and funnily enough, these two rivals grow a real respect for each other, and they end up making up.
Terry was really upset that I made a comment to him after the reward challenge about him talking bad about women. And you know what? I didn't feel good about making the comment that I made. I apologize for going personal like that on you.
All right, well then right here.
I'm sorry, straight up. I thought about that, and I don't want to make this a personal thing.
But it is now time. No one can vote for Aras, and voting for Terry would only be foolish. Terry has made a final 2 deal with Danielle, so it only seems inevitable that there will be a tie vote and a fire-making challenge. We then see Terry and Aras both training the women to make fire, and at Tribal Council, sure enough, there is a tie vote, which leads to...
Survivors ready? Begin.
Finale time. Aras versus Terry versus Danielle versus Cirie. Who will survive the fire-making showdown and who will make it to the final Tribal Council to pitch why they should win? Let's find out. The fire-making showdown commences as Cirie takes the early lead, but cannot sustain a fire while Danielle gets hers going and wins.
Cirie, you gotta hurry. Danielle wins the challenge. Cirie becomes the 6th member of our jury.
Cirie?
Yeah.
Tribe has spoken.
Back at camp, the final 2 deal Terry and Danielle made does not look good for Aras, but Danielle has been backstabbing Terry throughout the entire merge game, so it isn't guaranteed that she will even stick with him. We then see Aras and Terry going back and forth on who's better at chopping open coconuts, catching fish, flexing their muscles, etc, etc. Danielle says it is a good-natured rivalry that she is caught in the middle of. The reward challenge sees Terry and Aras going at it again as they compete for a nice caught and some chicken and veggies in a very close race. It ends up being...
Comes from behind to win reward.
You are the ultimate competitor, man.
The final 3 then do their rites of passage, a tradition to remember those who have been voted out of the game, and it ends with a ceremonious burning of the Exile Island skull. It is now time for the final immunity challenge, and this is an unbalanced one, pun intended, as it heavily favors those who weigh less, which is Danielle by about 50 pounds over someone like Terry or even Aras.
Terry cannot hang on.
Aras is out of the challenge. Danielle wins immunity.
Back at camp, Terry and Danielle talk, and she doesn't sound too sure about following through with their final 2 deal. What a shocker. And then we see Aras manipulate her.
Honestly, I think you have 10 times better chance against me than Terry, and that's not trying to be manipulative. But if you do vote Terry, then you lose me and Cirie anyways.
Aras is all about honesty and integrity, but in the same sense, he's contradicting himself because he's basically threatening me.
And you better bring me, I swear to God. I will be shocked if you don't. I should say that.
At Tribal Council, it finally happens. Lamina is fully eliminated as Terry is voted off by Danielle, and Aras is guaranteed to be in the final Tribal Council.
Terry, tribe has spoken.
Thanks for the journey, you guys.
It is day 39, and Aras and Danielle get their last day breakfast. After stuffing themselves, they go on a stroll down the beach, and what happens here hurts to watch as Aras slips on some rocks, gets glass in his back, in his hand, and Survivor Medical has to come out and fix him up and give him stitches. It's very painful for me to watch. And if you think about it, he almost lost the season by default. What if he had been medically evacuated? However, this bad event is a positive thing as it gives Aras perspective.
Falling down and hurting myself today reminded me just how human I am, and reminded me just how much of a game this is. What that is saying, look, Aras, you don't have to be a Superman. You don't have to be a superhero, and you'll be okay. And so with that perspective coming into Tribal Council, maybe I'll be able to connect with people at a deeper level. That's the hope. This has been an amazing ride, and hopefully there will be an amazing reward at the end of it.
It is time. Final Tribal Council. Will the jury respect Danielle's villainous gameplay and how she constantly backstabbed Terry to get to the end? Or will they choose Aras, who has had his own share of issues but has been pretty well respected all game? Let's find out. Aras opens Final Tribal with an opening speech that, while better than Danielle's, that really isn't saying much. He says he worked hard at camp and in the challenges, but more importantly, he made an effort to get to know everyone because he genuinely wanted to. Sally is then the first juror to ask any questions. She says, which player contributed the most to you getting to the end of the game? Danielle says Cirie, and Aras says, yeah, same. I think Cirie was the one who got me here to the end, but we saw this season how Cirie was actually truly closer to Aras than Danielle. Bruce is the second juror, and he asks, what would they each do if they won the title of Sole Survivor? How would they use that power and influence for good? Now, both Aras and Danielle's answers suck. But Aras's sucks harder as his answer doesn't even inspire me.
To be honest, Bruce, I don't know if I can inspire anybody else unless I change myself. And so for me, my focus at the age that I am is really can I make myself a better person? And hopefully through that will inspire other people.
Terry is the third juror, and he takes the opportunity to say Danielle has been wrong in her statements so far at Final Tribal Council, and he values how people did in competitions. Given how we have seen Terry be very complimentary of Aras this season, I would say Aras has this vote in the bag.
Somewhere down the line, Danielle, I hope that your family and friends and the ringing in your ears doesn't say you should have taken the Navy guy.
Austin is the fourth juror, and he asks, what is one good move and one evil move you made in this game? Aras says a good move was getting out Melinda in episode 2, which is so long ago, and Austin wasn't present for that, so it means nothing. And his one evil move was lying to Shane and pulling the wool over his eyes. Courtney is the fifth juror, and she feels hurt being voted out at Final 6. She asks each of them what they learned about themselves playing this game, and Aras's answer is something that clearly resonates with Courtney.
And I do not profess to say that I was completely honest out here. And so I guess for me, one thing I can say is my ego's been smashed.
And that is going to strengthen your spiritual way. I mean, my ego was smashed into smithereens.
I hope it did.
And you need it, because it's going to be tough out there.
Cirie is the sixth juror, and she asks, why should I vote for the person sitting next to you? Danielle gives a pretty vague answer, but when Aras talks about Danielle, he gets very specific, and it comes across as genuine. Shane is the final juror, and oh boy, he rips them both a new one, and basically says Aras is a freeloader, and Terry deserved to win.
I'm disappointed that it's the both of you. I wish that Terry would have been there. I believe that Terry is the most deserving person of the 16 to win the $1 million. We had an agreement, a bond, And when it came time to make the hard decision, I signed Danielle's name and you signed mine. Aras, you lied, you cheated, and you wrecked me personally. You know, you're young, you're a good kid. You're striving to do the right thing. But we cannot judge people based on their intentions. If I'm judged on my intentions, I'd be president of the planet.
But then in Aras' closing speech, he re-emphasizes what he said in the beginning and apologizes to Shane, which is very smart, and tries to take what Shane said negatively about him and turn it into a positive. It is time to vote, and we only see Bruce vote for Danielle and Terry vote for Aras instead of against him for once. Then, at the live reunion, the winner is revealed.
First vote. Aras. Danielle. Aras. Danielle. Aras, winner of Survivor Exile Island.
So let's break this down. How is Aras as a character? Aras was a low-key guy who fell into the leadership role on Kasaya, but also the therapist role for Shane. Him and Cirie did their best to maintain their alliance of crazies, which is probably why they got along so well. Nothing Aras did really sticks out when he is surrounded by so many memorable people, but his rivalry with Terry, and of course almost losing the game on a last-second medical evacuation, was unique, and we will always remember him saying, "Somebody call the wambulance, Terry's crying on the course." It would be interesting to see if Aras could maintain a level head if he were to be the underdog on another season instead of in the power position. Out of 28 character moments shown on the show, 15 were heroic and 13 were villainous, making Aras a hero character on Survivor Exile Island. Now, how is Aras as a strategist? Better than he had any right to be considering who he was aligned with. He was on a tribe that was clearly physically weaker after the swap filled with players who constantly fought and annoyed each other, and yet he was able to maintain a balance and mostly a calmness. He stopped Shane from doing bad things multiple times, and through it all, he grew a bond with Cirie of all people, this season's fan favorite character. Aras showed he was emotionally smarter than his age, which was 24, but there were also times we saw him crack pretty much due to Terry and his dominance in challenges. It was weird that Terry, who is twice Aras' age, kept kicking his butt at challenges, but it was because Terry stayed in the game that no one paid attention to Aras as a threat like they should have, so in a way, Aras should thank Terry. Aras played a solid, if not unspectacular game. Out of 43 strategic moments shown on the show, 30 were smart and 13 were dumb, making Aras a smart strategist on Survivor Exile Island. Thanks for watching, and doubly thanks for liking and subscribing. See you all next time.